I was able to carry out a study on atheism, and I can tell you for a fact, atheists, the foundation upon which they base their belief is the foundation of pain, meaning that they got frustrated by this God. Maybe somebody introduced to them, a God who is who cannot allow them to go through pain. Somebody introduced to them a world without fears, without pain, without negative things. But then, when the rubber hits the road, they begin to realize that kumbe, the ideal world that they have formed is being challenged by a certain reality. Now, coming back to our teenagers, our adolescents, when it comes to loss and grief and social media, you will agree with me that because our young people, because of their age, because at this age, we normally say that developmentally, the part of the brain, amygdala, which is involved with the production of emotions, is at its peak. And that is why you realize many young people are highly irritable. They throw tantrums, even when you least expect. But we need to understand where they are. But now, the reason why they will turn to technology is because, or to social media, is because they feel misunderstood. And I can tell you for a fact, this is how they feel. They will run to the internet to get solutions to their problems. They will run to the internet, to the social media, to connect with friends who can answer their questions very quickly. And at this age, they tend to believe their peers more than they believe their significant others, more than they trust their parents. And this is the reason why they will turn to the internet. Now, most adolescents are at ease with and quite adept at using technology on a daily basis. And therefore, whenever they want to get an answer to their challenges, they can always run to it. Right? So we really need to ask ourselves as caregivers, are we really there to answer some of these questions? The adolescent world is a relational and social one. Right? It is a relational and social one. And therefore, the moment they feel like they are not relating well, they are not connecting well with their family members, they will run to social media. They will run to their gadgets to have their questions answered. Because they look at technology, or they view their use of technology as the tool for social interaction. And therefore, we need to ask ourselves, are we really doing the right thing? Now, if they have a loss, grief, or trauma experience, they are most likely going to turn to technology to connect with the friends and to connect with the peers. That is our young people for you. Now, if there is no one with whom to connect, then there is the internet and the multitude of online resources. If there is no one to connect with, they turn to their phones. Okay? And therefore, this is a clarion call to all of us to try and connect with our children. Of course, internet has got, when we are talking about loss and grief, we are going to see how social media can actually benefit them as far as loss and grief is concerned. In their attempt to gather much information as possible about event, adolescents turn to one another to find out not just about the facts of a situation, but also about how to react, think, behave, and feel in response to loss, grief, and trauma experiences. They will want to run and so that because sometimes they do not know how to respond to a crisis, to a situation. You will agree with me that in the face of a crisis, of a traumatic situation like losing of a loved one, we behave in three ways. We either freeze, we either or fight, or even flight, taking off. And many times, more often than not, you will realize that adolescents, our teenagers, in the face of a crisis, in the face of an overwhelming trauma, they will tend to freeze. And we need to ask ourselves, what are we supposed to do as their caregivers? Now, if no one in their circle of friends and peers is going through this, then they will turn to the internet for guidance and social support. And we need to ask ourselves as their caregivers, is this the way they are supposed to go about such crisis of loss, of pain, emotional injuries? And it is important to know that there is always that which we can do as their caregivers. What are the benefits of social media and the internet as far as our young people are concerned? And I want to say the major one, because I think probably this is the only one, is immediate response, or what we call immediacy. That when they are feeling overwhelmed, when they are at the verge of committing suicide, they can go to the internet and search and look at how to respond to a particular crisis. Social media or internet or technology, it can act as a reciprocal exchange of thoughts, ideas, and feelings, especially in light of what is right, reaction or feeling is to a given situation. What is the right reaction? What is the right feeling? Because they do not know who else they can ask. It is very unfortunate that they will turn to social media to look at what is the right feeling, what is the right reaction. We really need to take time and help our young people. You will also agree with me that social norms and values, get defined by the internet as far as our young people are concerned. Like Facebook, for instance, where adolescents can immediately turn to their friends and peers, to reference their reactions in real time. They want to connect. They want to chat their friends and ask them, this is what I am going through. What do I do? So one positive thing that internet, or rather social media, brings to our young people is the aspect of immediacy. They get their answers in real time. Therefore, parents and other caring adults often misunderstand the need for speed of connection among adolescents. We don't understand, actually. We misunderstand their need for speed. They have got some questions they need addressed, but there is no one to answer them. Sometimes we perceive their immediate texting action as disrespectful, that you're talking to them and they are texting. Right? And sometimes we look at it as if, unfeeling and uncaring. That is what we think of them. Yet, the connection among friends and peers is imperative for our young people. It is normal and it should be expected, which can offer grieving adolescents some normalcy in an otherwise abnormal situation. Yeah, there's a way it is able to offer some normalcy, at least for that particular time. The other thing is that social media has got protective effects against depression and chronic grief among our young people. It's another advantage of social media. This therefore underscores the need and desire for adolescents to connect to one another and to search for ways to manage their loss, grief, and trauma responses. It is through the social media they are able to connect with their friends, and for that reason, it offers protective effects against depression and chronic grief. Now, many adolescents utilize the internet for information regarding health and mental health related issues, right? Some adolescents seek answers to questions they have about their grieving responses. That when they are going through grief, they have got 1,001 questions and they need those questions answered. And therefore, like I said, this is a clarion call whereby we need to rise to the occasion and support our young people. What are some of the risks involved in use of social media and technology as far as loss and grief is concerned. And number one, which is so critical, is that social media has got little or very few buffering effects. That when something tragic has happened, maybe at home, and this child is in school, you know, and the first place they get to receive the news is through the social media. It can leave them broken. It can leave them traumatized for such a long time. You know, as the news spread quickly with the potentially few buffering effects, you know, adolescents' loss, grief, and trauma responses can be both profound and intense. It can be so tragic that there is nothing to sieve what they get from the internet. And sometimes it can leave them traumatized. Sometimes it can actually cause them to go through what we call, to experience complicated grief and to experience post-traumatic stress disorder, because, you know, they just receive this information without buffering effects. Now, if adolescents learn of a classmate, for instance, who has died, it is likely to get to them through the social media, and it has not been sieved. And for that reason, because of their developmental stage, you know, this is likely to impair to impair them psychologically, emotionally, and in many other ways. Now, the negative aspects of this constant contact is that rumors are spread rapidly, and they are likely to absorb them, right? And it is likely to impair the way they are reasoning, right? The other day we had I can't remember, blue fish or blue whale, I can't remember what it was, whereby, you know, our young people were being recruited into how to commit suicide. So technology can sometimes be toxic, and we really need to take care of our loved ones. We need to offer ourselves. We need to be there so that our young people can be able to get help in real time, not through the social media, but through the caregivers, because they turn to technology, they turn to their gadgets, because many times we want to force them to look at a particular situations the way we are looking at it as grown-ups. And as a matter of fact, many a times we even want to force them to grieve our own way, not their own way. And for that reason, they feel misunderstood. They feel that we cannot answer their questions the way they want answered. And for that reason, they are in constant search for answers. And this is how social media comes in. This is how gadgets will come in. This is how they even get misadvised, and they end up harming their own lives. So, like I have said, we really need to rise to the occasion and help our young people, and help them to cope with grief, and help them to absorb the right information, and so that they can run to us as their safe haven. Once again, I want to appreciate you, my dear viewers, ladies and gentlemen. I want to encourage you to connect with me as we continue with this same topic in part 3. See you then.